People always say night shifts are quiet. That is a lie. They are only quiet when nothing wants your attention. I learned that during my 3rd week working overnight security at the Crestwood Medical Records Building. A place so boring during the day that no one remembered it existed, and so wrong at night that everyone avoided it. The job listing was simple. Night shift security, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Minimal foot traffic. Easy money. I should have questioned why they were paying above average. The building was old but clean. 4 floors. No patients. Just storage boxes of physical medical records from the 80s and 90s. They gave me a key card, a flashlight, and a rule sheet. The supervisor did not explain the rules. He just said, read them. Follow them. Do not improvise. Rule number 1. Do not leave the security desk between 1:10 p.m. and 1:40 a.m. Rule number 2. If the elevator stops on a floor you did not select, do not exit. Rule number 3. If you hear someone call your name, ignore it. Rule number 4. If you see someone in the building after midnight, you are not seeing a person. I laughed. I shouldn't have. The first few nights were normal, boring. Surveillance cameras, coffee, phone scrolling. Then on night 5, something small happened. At 1:12 a.m. the lights flickered. Just once. Then the intercom crackled, static, and then breathing. I leaned forward, waiting for a voice. Nothing came. The breathing stopped exactly at 1:40 a.m. That is when I noticed the timestamp on the camera feed rewind itself. After that night, the building felt delayed. My watch would tick, but the wall clock would not move. Camera feeds lagged by seconds, sometimes minutes. Once I watched myself on camera 3, still typing. 5 seconds after I had already stopped. The rule sheet did not mention time distortion. It mentioned compliance. Night 9, 2:26 a.m. Camera 7 showed movement on the 3rd floor. A person standing between shelves. Still. Too still. I zoomed in. Hospital gown. Bare feet, head tilted just slightly to the left. I remembered rule number 4. You are not seeing a person. The figure raised its head and looked directly into the camera. The next night the intercom spoke. Not static, not breathing. My name. Soft, careful, like someone testing it. I did not respond. The rule sheet did not say what would happen if you did, so I did not. The voice tried again, closer this time, as if it was standing right behind the speaker. By week 3, reflections stopped matching reality. Bathroom mirror blinked when I did not. Camera feeds showed doors opening that were still closed. Once I saw myself walk past the security desk while I was sitting in the chair. The copy paused, turned its head, and smiled. On night 16, a file appeared on the desk. No footsteps, no doors opening, just there. Manila folder. My full name typed on the label. Inside were photos. Me sleeping, me at work, me sitting at that desk. The last photo was time-stamped 6 minutes in the future. It showed me standing in the hallway, staring into darkness. I finally understood. The Crestwood building did not store medical records. It stored people who were forgotten. Night nurses, orderlies, janitors, anyone who worked nights long enough, anyone who learned the rules, anyone who stayed. The building did not kill you. It copied you, and when the copy was perfect, it kept the better version. On my last night, the supervisor did not show up. No calls went through. At 1:10 a.m., the desk lights shut off. At 1:12, footsteps surrounded me. At 1:40, the intercom whispered, "You can leave now." I stood up. Camera 3 showed me still sitting, smiling. I quit that job. Moved cities. Changed numbers. But sometimes late at night my phone buzzes. Unknown number. No message. Just breathing. Waiting to see if I still remember the rules. Wait, did you think the story ended here? Absolutely not. I did not quit the job. That is the part I lied about. You are not allowed to leave, not once the building finishes learning you. On what I thought was my last night, the clock stopped at 1:10 a.m. and never moved again. Every camera showed the same hallway. Every door led back to the security desk. I tried calling emergency services. The call connected and rang from the intercom above me. That is when the rule sheet changed. The words rewrote themselves. A new rule appeared at the bottom. Rule number 5. When your replacement arrives, do not resist. I heard footsteps. Slow, measured, familiar. Someone sat in the chair across from me. I did not look. I already knew what I would see. My own face younger, healthier, unaware. He smiled and said, "First night's easy. You get used to the quiet." The intercom clicked on, not whispering anymore. Clear, confident. Transfer complete. The lights came back on. The clocks started moving. The new me logged into the system. The old me, the real me, was guided into the hallway. I tried to scream. No sound came out. I tried to fight. There was nothing to fight. I was not solid anymore. Now I walk the 3rd floor, bare feet on cold tile, head tilted slightly to the left, waiting for the cameras to notice me, waiting for someone new to sit at the desk. Because once you are filed here, you do not die. You just work the night shift forever. If you are listening to this late at night, and you work overnight, check your reflection. If it smiles before you do, you are already on the schedule. This was the first story. Are you ready for the second one? Before that, if you liked the story, please do hit the like button and smash the subscribe button to hear stories like this in future. Now let's dive into the second story. People say night shifts are quiet. They're wrong. Night shifts aren't quiet. They're patient. I learned that the first night I stepped into a place that officially no longer existed. The job posting didn't look strange. That's the part that still bothers me. No cryptic language. No warnings. Just a clean block of text buried deep on a local job board. Overnight operations monitor hours 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Minimal supervision, above average pay. No company logo. No reviews. No address listed publicly. When I clicked apply, the page refreshed once and displayed a single sentence. Orientation is tonight. I checked the time. 8:46 p.m. I should have closed the tab. I should have laughed and gone back to scrolling. Instead, I felt something settle into my chest, something heavy and calm, like the decision had already been made for me. A minute later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. The man on the other end didn't introduce himself. He didn't ask my name. He said, "You'll want to leave early. Parking gets confusing after dark." The line went dead. The building was at the edge of an industrial zone that had been slowly erased by warehouses and empty lots. The GPS cut out 2 blocks away and rerouted me in a tight loop 3 times before giving up entirely. I found it by accident. A structure set back from the road behind a chain-link fence that had been repaired too many times. No sign. No lights on the exterior except one buzzing floodlight over a side entrance. I parked and immediately felt like I'd arrived late for something I didn't remember agreeing to. Inside smelled wrong. Not rot. Not chemicals. Paper. Old paper. Dry air. Dust that had been trapped so long it felt stale. The lobby was small. No receptionist. Just a metal desk bolted to the floor, and a man standing beside it, as if he'd been waiting in the same position for years. He wore a security uniform, but it didn't have a badge or a name tag. "You're on time," he said. I checked my watch. I wasn't. He slid 3 things across the desk. A key card, a flashlight, a laminated sheet of paper. "Read it before midnight," he said. "After that, it won't help." I asked him what the building was. He hesitated, just long enough for me to notice. "Records," he said. "Things people stopped asking for." Then he added, 4 floors. Don't wander." I looked back up to ask another question. He was gone. Not walked away. Not around a corner. Gone. The security desk was on the 1st floor in a narrow room that felt too tight for the number of surveillance monitors lining the wall. Every camera showed empty hallways, stacked with shelves and boxes, labeled in handwriting styles that went out of fashion decades ago. Medical files. Intake forms. Death certificates. Notes that had never been digitized because no one cared enough to bother. The chair creaked when I sat down. It creaked again a second later, even though I hadn't moved. I told myself it was the building settling. I told myself a lot of things that night. At 11 p.m. sharp, the lights dimmed automatically and never fully came back on. At 11:07, the elevator chimed once, even though no one had called it. At 11:10, my phone lost signal. I didn't panic. I read the laminated sheet instead. Rules for overnight operations. 1. Do not leave the security desk between 1:10 a.m. and 1:40 a.m. 2. If the elevator stops on a floor you did not select, do not exit. 3. If you hear someone call your name, ignore it. 4. If you see someone in the building after midnight, you are not seeing a person. There was space below the last rule, as if more had once been written and carefully removed. I laughed quietly to myself. Rules like that always felt like a joke, a way to scare new hires or weed out people who didn't have the stomach for isolation. I folded the sheet and slid it under the desk. That was my first mistake. The first few hours passed slowly. Cameras, coffee, phone scrolling until the battery died. The building made noises, but nothing alarming. Pipes, distant clicks, the soft electric hum of fluorescent lights that never quite synced with each other. At 12:48 a.m., I noticed something strange. Camera 3 showed the third-floor hallway. Empty. Camera 4 showed the same hallway from the opposite angle. Also empty. But the timestamps didn't match. One lagged behind the other by exactly 12 seconds. I tapped the screen thinking it was a glitch. The delay increased. 15 seconds. 20. Then camera 3 showed movement. A shadow crossing the frame. Camera 4 showed nothing. I checked the time. 1:09 a.m. I remembered rule 1. I stayed in the chair. At 1:12 a.m. the lights flickered. Once. Hard enough to make the monitors buzz. Then the intercom above my head crackled to life. Static. Not the sharp kind. The wet kind. Then breathing. Slow. Controlled. Close. I leaned forward, waiting for a voice to follow. None did. The breathing continued for 28 minutes. I know because I watched the second hand on my watch tick, while the wall clock on the desk remained frozen at 1:10. At exactly 1:40, the breathing stopped. The intercom clicked off. The wall clock jumped forward as if nothing had happened. That was when I noticed the timestamp on camera 3 rewind itself. I told myself it was fatigue. I told myself night shifts mess with perception. But the building felt different after that. Delayed. Like it was responding to me instead of the other way around. Sometimes I'd move and see myself finish the motion a few seconds later on the monitors. Once I watched my hands continue typing after I'd already pulled them back. I reached for the laminated rules. They were gone. At 2:26 a.m. camera 7 detected movement on the third floor. I didn't want to look. I looked anyway. A figure stood between the shelves. Still. Too still. Bare feet on tile. Hospital gown hanging wrong on its frame like it didn't understand how bodies were supposed to work. Its head was tilted slightly to the left. I remembered rule 4. I whispered it under my breath. You are not seeing a person. The figure raised its head and looked directly into the camera. That was the moment I understood something important. The rules weren't there to protect me. They were there to train me. And the building had noticed I was learning. The building learns your shape. The figure on the monitor didn't move after it looked at the camera. It didn't approach. It didn't retreat. It simply stood there as if the act of being noticed was enough. I waited for it to disappear the way shadows sometimes do when you stare too long. It didn't. Camera 7 stayed locked on that aisle for the next 43 minutes. The figure never blinked. Never swayed. Never shifted its weight. When I switched to another feed and came back, it was still there, occupying the exact same pixels as before. At 3:09 a.m. it vanished. No fade. No movement. One frame it was there. The next frame the aisle was empty again. I exhaled without realizing I'd been holding my breath. That was the first time the building let me believe it was finished with me. The elevator chimed at 3:17. I felt it more than I heard it. A vibration through the desk. Through the chair. Through my feet on the tile. The monitor showing the elevator lobby flickered. The doors were open. No one inside. The floor indicator glowed softly. Third floor. I hadn't selected anything. Rule 2 surfaced in my mind fully formed. If the elevator stops on a floor you did not select, do not exit. I hadn't exited anything. But the elevator had stopped anyway. The doors remained open for a long time. Long enough for me to notice something unsettling. The interior camera angle showed the back wall of the elevator. The reflective steel panel. I saw movement in it. Not someone entering. Someone already inside, shifting slightly out of frame. The doors closed by themselves. The indicator light turned off. I didn't breathe again until the hum faded, and the system returned to idle. After that night, sleep became unreliable. Not because of nightmares. Because of anticipation. Even during the day I felt like I was waiting for something to resume. As if I'd paused a video and forgotten where. I went back the next night anyway. I told myself leaving would look suspicious. I told myself I needed the money. Neither of those were true. The truth was simpler. I didn't feel finished. On night 11, the rules returned. Not physically. They appeared on the monitors. White text on black background, overlaying every camera feed at exactly midnight. Rule 3 is not a suggestion. The message stayed for 10 seconds. Then vanished. I sat very still. I had not broken Rule 3. At least I didn't think I had. The intercom spoke again at 12:31. Not my name. A sound close to it. A careful approximation. Like someone sounding out syllables they'd only read once. I clenched my jaw and stared at the desk. The voice adjusted. Tried again. Better this time. Closer. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It came from every speaker at once. From the walls. From the vents. From inside the desk. I didn't answer. The voice stopped. The lights dimmed further, and something heavy passed behind the walls, like a body being dragged slowly across concrete. Reflections stopped behaving after that. Not all at once. Subtly. My reflection in the monitor screens blinked out of sync. The bathroom mirror lagged behind my movements. Once I raised my hand and watched my reflection hesitate before copying me. Once I smiled experimentally and felt my face relax before the reflection stopped smiling. I stopped testing after that. On night 13, I found a chair in the third-floor hallway. Not one of the rolling office chairs. An old metal folding chair, set up neatly between two shelves, facing nothing. The camera feed hadn't shown it earlier. There was no record of it being brought up. I remembered the supervisor telling me not to wander. I remembered Rule 4. I stayed at the desk. The chair was gone the next night. Something else was there instead. The file appeared on night 16. It wasn't on any camera feed. It was simply on the desk when I looked down. Manila folder. Clean edges. No dust. My name printed in block letters that matched the font used on the rule sheet. Inside were photographs. Not surveillance stills. Personal angles. Me asleep. Me driving. Me at the security desk, with my head in my hands. Each photo had a timestamp. The last one was labeled 6 minutes in the future. I was standing in the third-floor hallway, facing the shelves, head tilted slightly to the left. I did not remember that photo being taken. I checked the time. 6 minutes hadn't passed yet. I stood up. Camera 3 showed me still sitting, looking down at the folder, smiling. I sat back down, slowly, carefully. The image on the monitor corrected itself after a few seconds. The copy disappeared, but the sense of being observed did not. That was when the understanding finally settled into place. The building wasn't haunted. It was archival. It didn't trap people. It recorded them, cataloged them, learned how they moved, how they sounded, how they reacted to silence. Night shift workers were ideal. No witnesses, no one asking questions, no one expecting help to arrive. On my last night, the supervisor didn't show. No calls went through. At 1:10, the lights shut off completely. At 1:12, footsteps surrounded the desk. Not approaching, circling, measured, patient. At 1:40, the intercom whispered clearly for the first time, "You can leave now." I stood. Camera 3 showed me still seated, smiling wider than I ever had. I told myself I quit. I told myself I moved. I told myself the phone calls were stress. Unknown number. No message. Just breathing. Waiting. I believed that lie for a while. Until the clock stopped again. Until every door led back to the desk. Until the rule sheet rewrote itself. Rule 5 appeared slowly, as if typed by something unused to language. When your replacement arrives, do not resist. I heard footsteps. Slow. Measured. Familiar. Someone sat across from me. I did not look. I did not need to. He spoke with my voice. But younger. Healthier. Unbroken. "First night's easy," he said. "You get used to the quiet." The intercom clicked on. Clear. Confident. Transfer complete. The lights returned. The clocks resumed. The new me logged in. The old me stood. Or tried to. I wasn't solid anymore. Now I walked the third floor. Bare feet, on cold tile. Head tilted slightly to the left. Waiting for the cameras to notice me. Waiting for the next person to learn the rules. Because once you're filed here, you don't die. You don't leave. You don't even remember when you stopped being real. You just work the night shift. Forever. At first I thought being left behind would hurt. It didn't. Pain requires a body that still belongs to you. What I felt instead was thinning. Like parts of me were being archived elsewhere while something hollow remained to walk the halls. The third floor became my boundary. I could reach the stairwell doors, but never open them. I could stand inches from the elevator, but never make it acknowledge me. The cameras followed me now. Not automatically. Deliberately. Every time I stepped into a frame, the lens adjusted. Focused. Learned. I stopped being a security worker. I became a record. Time lost meaning almost immediately. Not in the dramatic way people imagine. No endless screaming. No madness. Just erosion. I would walk the same aisle and notice boxes had changed labels. Names replaced by dates. Dates replaced by symbols. Symbols replaced by nothing at all. Once I found a box labeled with my childhood address. Inside were memories I didn't recognize as mine until they were gone. The new me worked efficiently. I watched him through the monitors when I could still interpret them. He drank coffee the way I used to. Checked his phone at the same intervals. Folded the rule sheet without reading the bottom line. He didn't look afraid. That hurt more than anything. Fear would have meant resistance. Acceptance meant the building had done its job well. Other figures walked the halls now. Not shadows. Not reflections. People. Or what had once been people. They never acknowledged each other. Never acknowledged me. They followed routes worn into the floor by repetition. Night nurses pushing empty gurneys. Janitors mopping clean tile that never showed moisture. Security guards stopping at corners to stare into nothing. All of them barefoot. All of them tilted slightly left. All of them silent. I tried to scream once. Nothing happened. Not because I had no mouth. Because the building did not record sound from obsolete files. There was a room on the third floor I had never seen before. It appeared one night between two shelves that had been there for weeks. A doorway without a door. Inside were filing cabinets. Tall. Endless. Each drawer labeled with a time instead of a name. I opened one. Inside was a night. Not a document. Not paper. An entire shift compressed into something flat and cold. I closed it, and the label changed to match the time I had just experienced. That was when I understood. The building wasn't storing people. It was storing nights, and people were just what nights used to belong to. I don't know how long I've been here. I only know that you are closer than you think, if you work overnight, if you follow rules, if you stay quiet long enough. The building notices patterns. It likes patterns. Sometimes I can still see through the monitors. Sometimes I can see you. Sitting. Listening. Waiting for the next thing to happen. You feel safe, because nothing has happened yet. That's how it starts. The worst part isn't being replaced. It's realizing the replacement was always planned. The job listing refreshes every time someone clicks away. Orientation is always tonight. The pay is always just enough. And the quiet only lasts until something wants your attention. I'm still walking the third floor. Still waiting. Still cataloged but not erased. That's the mercy. Because once the building finishes with you completely, you won't even remember what the night used to feel like. The exit was never real. The idea of leaving didn't come from hope. Hope requires belief. What I felt was irritation, a pressure in the back of whatever remained of my thoughts. Like an unfinished task looping endlessly. The building had rules. The building had systems. And systems always had flaws. I wanted to find the flaw. The exit sign still glowed. That was the first lie. Red letters humming softly above doors that had not opened in years. I tested them again and again, pressing against glass that felt warm to the touch, like skin holding breath. Sometimes the handle moved. Sometimes it didn't exist at all. Once I pushed through an exit door and stepped directly back into the third-floor hallway. Same shelves. Same boxes. Same faint smell of paper and dust. The sign behind me now read, "Return." I followed the others. That was my second mistake. They walked in patterns too precise to be accidental. 4 left turns. 3 straight corridors. Pause. Turn. Stop. Wait. They never collided. Never acknowledged obstacles. The building reshaped itself to accommodate their routes. I joined the pattern. For the first time since I was archived, the walls stopped shifting. The building approved. The filing room expanded. Cabinets stretched deeper than before. Drawers opened on their own when I approached. Labels adjusted as I watched. Not times anymore. Names. Some were smudged. Some scratched out. Some replaced with numbers. One drawer bore my name, not printed, engraved. Inside were pieces of me that still remembered resisting. My first night fear. The moment I laughed at the rules. The hesitation before sitting back down when I saw myself smiling on camera. I felt lighter when I closed the drawer. That should have terrified me. It didn't. The new me began training someone. I watched through a camera feed that no longer had a number. A young man, early 20s, eyes tired already. He held the laminated rule sheet with both hands, like it might bite him. The new me spoke gently, exactly the way the supervisor once had. "Read them before midnight," he said. "After that, they won't help." The young man laughed. I felt something tighten. That night the building rewrote the rules again. Not adding, removing. Rule 1 disappeared first. Then Rule 2. By morning, there was only one line left. Do not interrupt the process. The rest of the sheet was blank. White. Hungry. The young man didn't last long. Most don't. Some resist too loudly. Some ask too many questions. Some break before the building finishes learning them. Those nights get discarded. I watched his image distort on camera. Watched the delay stretch until his movements no longer matched any version of time. By morning, he was gone. The new me didn't react. I felt proud of him. That was when I realized what the building had taken from me last. Choice is a muscle. Unused muscles waste away. I tried one last thing. I walked into the filing room and opened a drawer that wasn't labeled. Inside was a recording. Not audio. Perspective. I stepped into it. For a moment I was back in my body on my first night sitting at the desk, laughing at the rules. I tried to warn myself. Nothing came out. The past version of me folded the sheet and slid it under the desk. The recording ended. The drawer sealed. The label appeared. Completed. There are no exits. There never were. Only transitions. Only replacements. Only nights that get reused until they fit perfectly. The building hums differently now. Satisfied. Efficient. Quiet in the way people mistake for safety. You're still listening. That means you're awake. That means you're working late. That means the building would like to know your schedule. The night never needed you to believe. The building does not rush. It has never rushed. That is the mistake everyone makes. Thinking urgency belongs to predators. Thinking patience means weakness. The Crestwood building learned long ago that time is the only thing no one can refuse. People arrive tired. They arrive distracted. They arrive already half gone. That is enough. I no longer walk the halls on purpose. Movement happens when it is required. When the cameras need calibration. When the shelves need reminding that weight still exists. When the building tests whether I have degraded too far to be useful. I pass mirrors now without reflections. Not because I am invisible. Because the system no longer renders obsolete files. The new me has been promoted, not in title. Titles imply change. He has simply been given more access. More screens. More nights. He understands now which rules matter, and which were only scaffolding. He has stopped reading them entirely. That is how the building knows he is ready. There are fewer workers here than before. That is not because the building is losing interest. It is because it is improving. Early versions needed many attempts, many nights, many discarded recordings. The modern process is cleaner, faster, more permanent. Sometimes a night collapses completely. No usable data. Too much resistance. Too much noise. Those nights are erased. If you have ever worked overnight and felt like 8 hours disappeared without memory, that is not exhaustion. That is rejection. I was not rejected. I was ideal. That truth hollowed me more than fear ever could. The filing room no longer opens for me. That means my file is complete. I am maintenance now. Residual awareness attached to an empty route. A voice that exists only when the building wants something remembered without being understood. This narration is not a warning. Warnings imply choice. This is documentation. You are not listening by accident. Your attention is part of the process. You gave it willingly. That matters. If you are hearing this while working overnight, if the lights around you hum instead of flicker, if the clocks feel slower than they should, the building is already mapping you. Check your surroundings. Notice how quiet it feels. Notice how nothing is happening yet. That is the training phase. Do not look for rules. You will follow them anyway. The night shift does not end. It hands itself off. It copies what works. It keeps what does not resist. The last thing I remember choosing was to sit back down. After that, everything happened correctly. If your reflection lags behind you, if your camera feed pauses too long, if someone says your name carefully, do not answer. Not because it will save you, because interruptions slow the process. The building prefers silence. So do I now. The next voice you hear will not sound wrong. It will sound familiar. It will sound like relief. It will say you can leave now, and you will stand, but you will not be able to leave. Thanks for watching the video. Do you also work at night shifts? Do let us know in the comment section. Please do hit the like and subscribe button, and press the bell icon to get future notifications. See you in the next video. Until then, take care and goodbye.